What is going on, guys? My name is Cheese. Welcome back to another podcast episode, Feeds Mindset, episode 39. Man, it's been a few weeks since I've done this. I'm I'm not here. So we are with the wonderful lady KJade. Jade, how are you? Welcome in.
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're just trying to figure out if the camera's rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited from you to be here. I really appreciate your time being here and hanging out with us. Also, something kind of cool to just note a little bit. I don't want to talk about it too much, but we are a part of the Recruits Invitationals for Respawn. So it's just a nice little collab. And again, I just appreciate your time being able to be here and just talk about everything. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, so before we begin anything, whether it's your community or anybody new tapping in, just kind of give me a brief, analogy of who you are as of current day. What do you do? Where do you stream? Just kind of let us know who is Jade.
Yeah. So I am a facecam streamer now, which is, weird for me to say. I used to be a PNG tuber or VTuber. And then at the start of this year, I just face revealed and went on about it. So I mainly do variety. I got kind of well known for doing a lot of Valorant, and then I got burnt out on Valorant.
Yeah, I feel you.
So now I just do whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said before we had started this, you also dab a little bit of music too. Is that something you're still keeping up on, or just kind of here and there?
Yes, I know I haven't released a song in like a year, but I have a new song coming out soon.
I'm definitely excited for it. You'll have to let me know when it drops. Yeah, I definitely. Oh man, I've talked a lot about Valorant on my podcast and stuff. It is definitely something that has burned me out for sure.
Yes.
Valorant. So back when COVID had happened, was when I was able to raise enough money to get my first PC, and my first PC game was Valorant. I played that pretty much like right out of beta, and played that for about a year and a half before I really diversed into Call of Duty and got back into sniping and stuff. And like the first year, like it was great. Like I had a lot of passion. Like it was really fun. But it was kind of like Fortnite in a way. I feel like a lot of people are going to cringe when I compare it to Fortnite, but it just started getting ridiculously competitive, and I just couldn't find the fun in it anymore. Like I was releasing like op aces and like quad feeds and Valorant, and a lot of people was just like, nice clip. It was like, man, I was like, that took me a while to hit that, man. So, dude, it kind of stinks. So what made you get burned out of Valorant?
Honestly, like you said, the competitiveness. I think it was just because I was also playing it for 3 years straight, like ever since it came out, and then like until the end of like 2023, I was just playing it. Um, and so it was really just like the competitiveness, and then on top of that, the toxicity of the
Yeah.
community is really just an off factor, especially you try and voice in Valorant, and then oh my god, woman, like it's just so dumb.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I think that's also the really stinky part of it, because little feeds that just started Valorant would have never guessed that would turn into a toxic trait game. I mean, that I would say that's probably close to like the top 5, at least top 10 games that are the most toxic, especially towards women,
Right.
most definitely.
Oh,
And it's sad because Valorant is a very very stable game, and it's something that like the term skill issue. I mean, Valorant is a skill issue type of game. It's completely
right.
different to what most people were normalized as. Obviously, me, just like many other creators, I went from COD to Valorant, and just the whole shift of not being able to shoot while you're moving. I mean, it sounds so simple to somebody that's never played it, but when you sit down thinking you're about to dominate, then you keep missing all your shots, and you're like, oh, my game's lagging. It's like, it's not. You just got to practice,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's ridiculously toxic for no reason. I've ran into a lot of disgusting men, a little bit of ladies too here and there, not really that much on Valorant, but men most definitely. And it's sad because it's taking the fun out of the game, and it drains you, because you go and you work and you have this really bad day, and then you hop on just to get ridiculed. It's awful.
Right. Absolutely.
So, man, it kind of stinks, and I feel like that's kind of where the gaming space is now. I feel like every new game is always going to have that target audience of negativeness, and I wish that we could just make it an anti-cheat for negativeness, so it could just be applied and just like people be kicked and banned, because I feel like that's another big thing too, like reporting and stuff like that. I just don't feel like it's functioned the way that it should be. So yeah. Another thing, before we really dive into my questions and stuff that I got for you, you had mentioned you're now a face cam streamer. Something that for a good chunk of your time, from my understanding, obviously, respectfully, I don't know you that well. You seem to be, you said you were a VTuber and stuff for a long time. And it's actually kind of funny. It was a couple months ago, but I did a podcast with Lumi, and she's somebody that's a VTuber and stuff, and that was the first ever like VTuber experience that I had. So her VTuber was on the screen the whole time we was doing the podcast, and a lot of people may have think that was like a little odd. I thought it was really fascinating. I got to learn a lot about the VTuber community, and I have a lot more respect from them than I know now. And the obvious thing is you have to be a lot more energetic, and people can't even tell how energetic you're being, so everything picks up, so it motions you and all that stuff, which is crazy. So how does it feel going from that area and then finally deciding, okay, let's go ahead and show my face and show them who Jade really is?
It's definitely really such a drastic difference because whenever I started streaming, I had nothing, like no PNG, no camera, like nothing. And so then to go from like having a little icon on the screen, which was very easy for like my computer to handle,
Hmm.
and then going to like a camera, my computer can't handle that. But I mean, it's definitely a lot different. I didn't really want to do a face reveal. I wanted to at least wait a lot longer. Um, but I mean, I got kind of burnt out on content, and so I was like, might as well do a
Really?
change up, you know?
Hmm. I feel like that's kind of a unique perspective. I feel like a lot of people are either pressured into it or just kind of feel like, oh, it's been so long, might as well. And your goal for it was just, this is now my new form of content, me. Like I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of a unique way for sure.
Yeah. It's I mean I definitely yeah, it's I understand. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
You're
Um
fine.
so whenever I decided to do it, I had like a little Elgato web no, Logitech
That's
webcam.
probably the
I
one.
had a Logitech webcam, and I was doing face cam streams, but I was like masked with sunglasses.
Hmm.
And so I had all these opportunities to apply for like Lover Host or like my friend does Discord videos, like kind of like the group chat esque.
Hmm.
And a lot of that requires like your face to be shown or at least
Yeah.
having a camera. And so having to do that and then sitting in my room, which is very small for 2 hours, and my computer runs like a heater in this room. I can't breathe with it. And then like my glasses are getting fogged up and I'm too hot in my room. And so it was like a lot of factors led up to me eventually face revealing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was more so just the fact of wanting a new, fresh way for me to create content because reactions are obviously a huge part of like
Hmm.
editing and the zoom in on people's reactions are always so fun. And then like if something happens and I'm reacting in real life and my PNG tuber isn't picking it up,
Yeah, you
like
lose
there
you
goes
lose your
like that
footage
funny
basically.
reaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, most
So
definitely. I mean, I can understand that for sure. Like I said, I'm kind of thankful that I did that podcast with Lumi because now obviously I have a better understanding rather than just sitting here just figuring out what you're trying to say. And I can only imagine how hard that is. And it's crazy because it's hard to not try to like a lot of people take peer pressuring a different way. Like there are people that are genuine like me. Like if I were to push somebody like my buddy Envy, I was telling you about. Envy was the only other one that I've done a podcast with that did a face reveal recently. And I talk to him all the time, be like, yo, like if you could do it, like that would be great. And I was never trying to peer pressure him. I was just trying to motivate him because he was like hinting at the top at that he think that it would be cool, but he don't know how people would feel. The normal kind of answer response for everybody that hasn't done that yet. And so it's crazy how you can be kind of so like I don't know what the word is. You're so like confined for a long time, and then one day you just wake up and you're like, okay, maybe we need to change. And I feel like a lot of people that has made that change. When you're a face cam list streamer, especially if you don't do like if you're just gameplay, like just gameplay, you automatically have to be either very talented or over talented. Like maybe you're not really talented, but you're just very over exaggerative because you have to verbally perform because nobody
Right.
can see your reaction and hear what's going on. And I feel like when the whole VTuber stuff started, it was kind of an escape, not in a negative way, but it was an escape for them because they didn't have to perform so much verbally to make their content entertaining, or just tons of words and subtitles and stuff all on the screen. So when you did, I watched a little bit of your TikTok of your reaction when you did your face reveal and stuff, which was cool. How did it feel in that moment to be so long, not like I don't like the term saying hiding behind a camera, but being
Right.
behind a camera for so long and then finally deciding to do it? How do you feel, and what is your advice to other creators that are wanting to get to that point one day?
So in the moment, whenever I was doing that stream, I was nervous. Um, and it was to the point that I had my chat count down for me. So I was like, if I count down, I'm gonna back out. But if they count down, then they can yell at me afterwards if I don't follow through. So I had my chat count down and then I did it. And it was like a huge, like truly just felt like a huge weight was off my shoulders. Um, and so now I feel a lot better about it because I'm able to do like those recording videos. I'm
Yeah.
able to, audition for a lot more streamer or content related things,
Hmm.
um and be more expressive than just, picture, on a
Yeah,
screen.
definitely.
Um and so I mean, for advice for other people, it's definitely for me, the reason I didn't do it was because I was born with a birth defect. And so that really controlled a lot of my self image and how I saw myself. And I was always afraid that, I showed my face, people would see me how I thought I saw myself,
Hmm.
which, like, and obviously that's not true. You're
Right.
always your harshest critic. Um, but you know? So it's really just like for me, I did it to as like exposure therapy to really like if I see myself so often, then I have to look at myself. Like if I'm editing, I have to see my face.
Hmm.
So kind of just really exposing myself to that. I mean, if you're on the edge about it, I say do it. Like the worst that can happen is that you get a couple hate comments and they're keyboard warriors. They're stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I mean, right at the gate, I mean, obviously, first off, I'll tell you that you're amazing for being able to kind of step through that because there's like literally hundreds of thousands. Like, I feel like that phrase, hundreds of thousands, gets overlooked a lot, but genuinely, there really is. There's a lot of creators that are longing to kind of have that, but they're holding themselves back for whatever excuses, and I don't like saying the term excuses, but just whatever reasoning that they may have, like yours.
Yeah.
And like with you specifically for your reasoning, like I like that would not bother me at all. Like I said, I think you're amazing, and I think I'm proud of the fact that you was able to do that and come out of your comfort zone. And now that you've done that, without sharing that story with me, I would have never thought, like, if I didn't know anything about your background or anything like that, you'd just be another normal creator that's just got your face cam on and you're just hanging out. So that's definitely something that I want to say right out the gate because I feel like you kind of deserve that in a sense because regardless of anybody's opinions, you are the one that grinded for so long, and the biggest thing that is very very overlooked is your mental health, and a lot of people do not take that into account when all these keyboard warriors and all these ridicules and all these people saying all these negative things. It's not the fact that you're holding yourself back so much. It's the fact that it's affecting your mental health because, it's hard because I'm not in that perspective. I've been good with face for whatever reason. I've been fine with face cam. No problem. I've never had an issue showing my face on stream videos, collaborations, events, whatever. But at the same time, I could definitely understand how it deteriorates your mental health because when you get to that point, clearly, to some extent, words are affecting you because that's a big reason why a lot of people are being held back. So I think that's something I wish that people would normalize more. That just because you may make a little joke or a little comment and you may not even mean it that way, you kind of just don't need to say it at all because everybody's dealing with their own battles and their own struggles. and you may think it's just a little joke for a little TikTok chat to laugh at and feel good for 5 seconds, but that
Mhm.
5 seconds could cost them 5 hours of just sitting there and contemplating. Maybe today was the day that I was going to do it, and now I don't feel right. And like I said, I can't understand that perspective of people not doing it just because I'm not in that field, but I can wholeheartedly understand how that affects your mental health. So is before we move on, is there anything you'd like to kind of add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually funny that you say the TikTok comments because I posted a TikTok about my face reveal and all the comments were just guys behind the computer. You're not even that pretty. You don't even have that many followers. This face reveal is nothing. Like you shouldn't have even done this. Like can you unface reveal? And it's like what's the point, you know?
Right.
I did this out of my comfort zone. And that's what I really try to retaliate like hate comments with like explaining, and a lot of the times obviously that's not going to work, but if I really like a comment is really getting to me and it's like I can feel that it's getting to me, I try to
Hmm.
respond not emotionally but more so of like I did this for myself. And I didn't do it for anybody else. I didn't do it to get attention from the the big streamers. I didn't do it so I could, show off my tits. Like I did
Hmm.
it for myself. I did it so that I can start to build up my self-image and how
Hmm.
I look at myself. Um, and so, like, it's just like hate comments are useless. There's no point in it. And I do have to admit, a lot of them were funny on the TikTok. I have to admit, they're very creative with their hate comments. And it's one comment I just responded with like another TikTok, and it was just like those velocity edits.
Yeah.
I just responded with that, and I just put it on TikTok. It's just like a hot edit of me, and so he was like, "You look like Jimmy Neutron's dad," and I was like, "I didn't know Jimmy Neutron's dad was so sexy."
It's crazy. Yeah, but I mean you're right though. I mean, having that self-reflection and that self-reassurance is something that, in the most respectful way possible, a lot of people are lacking. A lot of people don't know how to reassure themselves, and that's why a lot of people have struggles with mental health and their battles and depression and all that stuff because they don't know the proper way to tell themselves that they're okay. And there's not really nothing wrong with that. Everybody learns at their own pace, and you learn to love yourself as life moves on, but you have to be okay with the things that you're doing. You can't set a goal and not want to work towards that goal. So even if your goal is something simple as, being able to show your face on camera and start a new journey in your content creation, you have to it's kind of cringy to say it, but you have to be there for yourself. Like a lot of people, I feel like are going to hear that and kind of be like, oh, like that don't really make sense, but it does because at the end of the day, no matter how successful you are, how many friends you have, how much you have in your family, you have yourself to rely on. You are the only one that's going to edit that video. You're the only one that's going to make that TikTok. You're the only one that's going to click that start stream. So it all starts with you. So you have to be able to understand who you are and what your goals are before you can act upon it, because at the end of the day, the only way to feel alone is if you let yourself feel alone. But if you
Absolutely.
remind yourself that you can build a community and that you can make a difference and make a change, you'll never be alone, because being alone would be your purpose to find a new friend. And that's like, I feel like that's like a big part of me. I don't think I've ever really felt alone or had quote unquote depression. And like I said, and I'm not saying that in like a
Right.
joking way or whatever. I don't understand it because I've not had it. So my purpose for those labels is just when I start feeling doubt and I feel like I got nobody to check up on today, like my brain is just like, hey, let's check out somebody new. Like clearly I don't want to talk to anybody else that I know right now. Let me go check out somebody new. And usually what I'll do is I'll go to some of my favorite games, Final Fantasy 12, Fallout New Vegas, some Far Cry series. I'll just click on random game categories, scroll down to the 1, 2, 3 viewer mark, and I'll just look for people and I'll chat in. Some people I'll just click and then exit. Other people I'll say, hey, how's your day? And that's where it all starts. And you have to have that motivation to start that process.
Right, absolutely. That's actually a really good idea. I'm gonna start taking that from you. Um, but yeah, it's like feeling alone, especially in content creation, is such a huge uh, I wouldn't say pandemic, but it's a very huge like thing that
Mhm.
happens, especially because, we're all sitting behind a computer slaving away at our content
Yeah.
creation, and we don't really get that social interaction that you would like if you worked at like a 9 to 5. Not saying that,
Right.
obviously I have a 9 to 5,
Right. I
so
got you.
but it's like a lot of people who are full-time or even part-time and aren't able to get away from that computer. Um it's definitely like, feeling alone is a huge thing that I think all of us can absolutely relate to. Um, and like you said, it's just you gotta find that person, those people, um, to really like push you on, like help you out.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said before, like it's hard because nowadays, we say a lot of certain terms and topics, and everybody interprets it in a different way. Like me saying like I've never felt alone, like that could probably trigger somebody, and they go on their own little rant and spill. But it's just the way that you determine how you're feeling that way. Like for me specifically, when I say that I'm feeling alone, I reword that for myself and I just say, I don't know who to talk to right now. And just like I said, that's how I go into my whole spill of finding somebody else because anybody that I would want to talk to right now is busy. And other people that I know here and there, I just don't know them enough to want to go say hi. You have your moments. Some people you want to check up on, other people you've watched their streams 3 times this week. And maybe you just want to tap into somebody new. Maybe you have an hour of your time before you get busy again and you just, want to use your time wisely. And at the end of the day, just like you said, you're working 9 to 5s or taking care of your family or whatever your position is that's taking you away from whatever your journey is or your dreams or your hopes or your hobbies or whatever. When you have that little bit of time for you, you have to understand what mindset you're trying to get into because if you can't understand the way that you want to approach things, you're never going to be able to approach them. And again, I know it's kind of like a bland saying, but you have limited amount of time to do stuff. So let's say if you have 2-3 hours left over, are you going to edit? Are you going to check up on people? Are you just going to play some games and vibe out? Are you going to take a day off? Are you going to take a break and everything's too much? You have to set those expectations in your mind to say, hey, today's been a tough day. I don't want to do nothing. I just want to lay down and just watch a couple TikToks. Then do it. I think that's the biggest misconception in this industry is everybody says time is money and you waste time and you're wasting opportunities and you're not. Any time that you spend on yourself will never be wasted time.
Absolutely. And self-care is such an important like thing to do as well. Like you really and this is definitely like advice that I've heard and I am also like I share with others. If you feel like you can't stream today, don't stream.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you feel that you can't go edit, don't edit. Like you shouldn't push yourself because that's how people get burnout quicker and a lot faster. Um and it's definitely something like I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of pushing myself and, catching that high of that viral video and trying to keep that going. But then ultimately like the high dies down, like the viewers dissipate and you're back where you were and you're just like, what was the point?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of another misconception too. I mean, a lot of people look at people that are successful or on the road to successful and they're so consistent. Oh, how do they do it or whatever? But I mean, you don't even know if they are doing it. If somebody's posted a TikTok for 2 straight months in a row, they could have sat down for just 3 straight days and just slaved away making TikToks and just pre-uploaded everything and then chilled out. And like with me, I mean, that's kind of the best example I can give as myself, for this respawn recruits that we're doing right now. I went ahead and released my challenge video like a day after, when it started, and it wasn't due for close to another week. And I've had people, tell me comments like, oh, Feed, you probably shouldn't do that. You should wait till the end. And it's like, why? It's going to be the same video. It's still me. It's still who I want to be and what I want to show off. And that's the way that I function. So last weekend I set a schedule. I recorded the video. I think it was on Saturdays when I posted it after I got off because I worked 6 days in a row. So when I got off Saturday and got home, posted that video. And then for the next 6 hours, I worked on my gaming channel content, all of my reaction content, a couple TikToks here and there, and got everything ready. And that's just the way that I keep myself sane. And like I said, a lot of people have their own opinions and advice, and that's all perfectly fine. Everybody can, give you opinions on what they think. But But at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you, whatever you're comfortable
Right.
with. And just kind of, like I said, that's kind of the big example I can give. I posted mine almost one of the earliest that pretty much anybody in the challenge did it. And if it gets negative feedback, is what it is. But the way that I see it is it's going to be the same exact video that I edit now versus at the end of the week. So why would I wait till the final moment just to act like I've been working so hard when I could be working towards so many other things? And that's just kind
Right.
of going all the way back to our original conversation, setting up some type of schedule and something that's comfortable for you. And, like I said, that's just something that's comfortable for me.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, so we've talked a lot about these topics and conversations. I appreciate your takes and stuff, and I hope anything that we've said thus far. Usually we kind of get into my original questions a lot earlier, which is no big deal at all. But I
Right.
just hope that anything that we've talked about, whether it be me or Jade here, I hope that it has applied to you and helped whoever's watching in some way, shape, or form. So let's kind of go ahead and talk about the topics that I usually bring up. So obviously, like I told you before, not really your childhood per se, but obviously gaming
Right.
is a big part of you and your image and your content creation. So how was gaming something that you got into when you were growing up?
So I started gaming in preschool. I was so preschool, like they get sent home earlier, and
Hmm.
so because no one else was in the house, my dad didn't know how to keep me busy, so he just sat me in front of a computer and I played Nickelodeon games. Um and so then I moved from Nickelodeon games to like pog.com
Yep.
and like Girls Go Gaming, like all of these websites, and especially the ones that were able to be played at school as well. Like if you got done with an assignment,
Yeah, like cool
I
math
was on
games.
Pop Tropica. Yeah, cool math games. Yes. Um, and so it's like that was definitely a start. My first main game that I like bought and downloaded, Gary's Mod.
Really?
Um, yes.
Was it
Well, I
before
mean,
you go on? Was it at all in reference to Vanos Gaming or completely separate?
I didn't even know who he was until
Really?
after. It was Venturian Tale, which I don't think a lot of people know, and I know that there was some, not so good things that happened with them recently, but I
Hmm.
grew up with them. They really got me going into, like, content creation, and I watched them through, like, elementary school and middle school. Um, so yeah, I started with Gary's Mod, and I played some PlayStation games as well. PlayStation 2, 3, the Xbox, and the 4 is all I had growing up,
Hmm.
and the Wii, and so, like, a lot of them were, like, my brother's game, and we would play Mortal Kombat, and he'd kick my ass. Um, 'Cause, my brother can, like, I don't know if you have siblings or
Yeah,
not, but
that's how we are. Yep.
yeah. And so I was like, "Can you let me win for once?" He was like, "Just get better." And so I was like, "I'm gonna get better." Um, but yeah, I he introduced me to a lot of games, so, like, Call of Duty, like, Portal, Half-Life, a lot of PlayStation games is where I started out. The Walking Dead Telltale series, my favorite series,
Yeah.
um, which I should not have been playing whenever I was a kid with how much
Yeah,
language
it's
it
pretty
had.
gory. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was playing it. Um, I mean, it's I love the series so much, but my first computer game was Gary's Mod.
Gotcha. That's sick. Yeah, that's cool. That's what obviously because I feel like that's kind of the most common one for Gary's mod is Vanos Gaming. That's where I watched a lot of him and H2O Delirious was somebody that very stood out to me tons of time. Just that whole crew just making videos and just their crazy laughs and stuff. I never played Gary's mod specifically like myself, but I've watched so much content about it and stuff. I never like it's weird because like there's games that you enjoy watching but you never want to play, and that was a game for me. Like Gary's mod is something that was very enjoyable and entertaining to watch, but I didn't like the idea of playing it, and it's weird. I don't know if you kind of
Yeah.
feel that way with other games or not.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that for a long time whenever I started out gaming and then I went to like watching YouTube because I was at the age that I didn't have a computer. Like all I had was the desktop sitting in the kitchen. So I
Hmm.
would sit and watch YouTube as soon as I got home till the time I went to bed. And so like watching like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, Sky Does Minecraft, like all of these like OG
Yeah.
YouTubers that really like formed kind of my humor, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, but yeah, I had a lot of games that I really wanted to play, but I couldn't because I didn't have money and I didn't have a system, and so I just watched them on YouTube instead.
Yeah, well, definitely. So, as you was growing up, was there any games that really just kind of hit home for you? Like, it doesn't really have to be a favorite game, but just something that you'll always be grateful for and remember that, because before I say this, a big thing that gaming teaches you that like the old generation always downs on, like, oh, you get off the game, go work overtime, get into the job, blah blah blah. Like, gaming teaches you a lot of life struggles. It teaches you how to problem solve and all these different things. So, is there any games back then that kind of helped mold a little bit better for you?
Um, Story-wise, I don't remember any, but community-wise was also Gary's Mod because I
Mhm.
played it, like, every day. And then because of that, I met my first online friends, um, which my mother says I shouldn't have been talking to people online, but whatever. Um, but I met my first online friends who really, like, you know, as a girl on the internet, a little girl on the internet shouldn't be around like that type of stuff, and they kind of like protected me from that stuff.
Yeah.
Like they always like stuck up for me, and if someone was, being a little too harsh to me, they would always like say, "Hey, no, like don't do that." Um so I'm definitely thankful for them, and yeah, I met
Yeah.
a lot of good people through Gary's Mod.
Was there a time when you started gaming where you started realizing that the women community were kind of treated a little bit different? Was there ever a time that really stood out to you in your journey?
CS:GO. Yep. I started playing that one in 2018, I think. Um, and then, you talk and it's just downhill from there.
Yeah.
So those were the first people that I met that were very like harsh towards someone. And I thought like maybe it was just because of me, like with how young I sounded. And I'm sure maybe it was. But then, as I grew up, I realized it's literally just because I have a feminine voice. Which I mean, I'm a woman, but like
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I mean that could be obviously a whole big conversation in itself, and we talked about that a little bit before the podcast too, but it's obviously a very sad thing about it, and I think that's something, that I'd kind of like to raise awareness for other women creators, where it's like I feel like a lot of people do take it personal, and it's hard, of course it's hard for me to say these things because I'm not, a woman creator. I don't deal with these struggles, and my heart goes out to them, and nobody should be treated that way at all. And I've defended a lot of women, in my gaming journey and stuff, dealing with stupid men and stuff. I hate it. It's stupid. I don't like it.
yeah,
But I feel like that's something I wish would be normalized a bit more. Is I feel like there are some out there that do take it a little bit too personal. And yes, of course, it's dumb that it's a thing in the first place. But I feel like if they wouldn't let it hurt them so much, it wouldn't get as bad. I don't know if you feel the same way about that. I don't really like talking about this conversation because I don't want to make anybody mad or offended because I'm not in that space. I don't understand that
right.
world. I just see it from the sidelines.
Right. I mean, it's definitely sort of a thing of like take it with a grain of salt because they're what 12, and if they're a grown adult, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
um, and so it's like definitely at least whenever I get talked down to a lot during games, I don't take it personally because they don't know me. Like
Right.
they're judging me based off of how I sound. And a lot of the times, the main insults a lot of us women get is like, "You sound fat, you're a pick me," like, "Go back to the kitchen," and it's like, I am opposite of those things, like, I am as skinny as a twig, like it's ironic because they say all these harsh things to you, and you couldn't be more of the opposite.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's definitely like take it with a grain of salt. And then like also on the other hand, just be nice on the internet. Like you don't know people, you don't know what they're going through. And just because they didn't get that headshot and that kill that you wanted, just because they didn't clutch the round doesn't mean that you get to right to, knock them down for it. Like everyone has their ups and their downs. Everyone has a good game, a bad game, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's just for fun.
Yeah, and that's kind of a huge thing I preach about a lot too. So before everything that I currently do, the biggest thing that most people know me in this community is for sniping. Obviously my name is Feeds. I've been a sniper for years and years and been in a lot of montages and stuff. And it's kind of really weird for me to say this, but like that the topic of like, oh, like you should have hit that shot. Like, how did you miss it? Oh, I killed 4 of them. There was one left. Like, I have a very different take on that. I am pretty competitive. I don't like saying that I'm the best. I don't like saying that I'm number one or that I'd shit on you or anything like that. But I do know that I can hold my own. And something I tell a lot of people is they'll be like, oh, playing, let's say we're playing Valorant. Be like, oh, dude, I dropped 29 kills and we lost by 2 rounds. Are you kidding me? My response is, should have got more kills. And they're like, what do you mean you should have got more kills? You have 7 kills, whatever. And it's like, if you want to be a good player and you want to be that ego, then be that ego and drop more kills. Just because your team didn't perform, I don't care what scenario you're in, you can always perform better. I don't care how good of a game you're having. And that's not saying that you're the reason the team lost, but you're also a reason that you're not helping the team, because that whole time you're on a high, you're I don't want to say certain words, you're pooping your teammates down, and you're making them feel less because you're better. And that's what causes a lot of people to stop playing the game. And so like I said, I have a very different opinion on that, because a lot of times when I lose, especially like when MW2 dropped, MW2 was a big game for me that really got me out there, especially with my ranked sniping. My ranked sniping was something that really hit the scene and really got me out there a lot. And there was a lot of times I was dropping 50, 60, 70 bombs against diamonds and plats and all that kind of stuff. And I would make like a lot of people get impressed, like, oh, you're so good or whatever. But I would just be in that mode of where I want to perform, so I know if we lost, I did everything that I could. And I feel like it's a hard thing to say, because like I said, you dropped a high kill game and you did really well, but just because you have a good amount of kills doesn't mean you played well, because there's a lot more aspects to the game than just how many kills you drop.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think that's definitely a misconception that a lot of people need to understand. Like, obviously it's great that you're playing good, but you always need to remember you can always play better. You can always play better. You can always do better in more fields, be motivating, say, oh, it's unfortunate you shot that shot. You'll get him next round, whatever, and just having that attitude change could save your RR, could save your SR, could save whatever competitiveness that you've got going forward for you to get to your next rank or whatever. You determine how that goes. If you really wanted to, you could backpack the whole game, 1v5 the whole way. Maybe you're not that skilled. You could be. It doesn't matter. You just have to be in that mindset, and you just got to lock in. So I've got a very decently competitive background, and of my time that I've done, it's something I've always learned is that you could do a lot more than what is normalized. So we've talked a lot about obviously the women's space and the community and the toxicity and all that kind of stuff, and we've talked about gaming and Gary's mod and things that you're grateful for. But now, transpiring into streaming, how did that kind of happen for you? Where did streaming come for Jade, and how is streaming something you got into?
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually such a fun story. This is like my favorite story to tell, because I met some friends through another streamer, like in the streamer's Discord, which is kind of and I mean I'll get into it later, but it's kind of where I get like my whole idea of like a safe community from, because I met my friends who I'm still friends with today through another
Oh,
streamer.
shout out to
And
them.
I want to be that streamer for him. For others, but I met them and we were in a Discord call, and one of my friends invited me into the server, and so I was in the Discord with them, and they were like, "Let's play Among Us," because it's 2020. Among Us was rampant. And so we all started playing Among Us, and then the next day we were playing Among Us, and the next day we were playing Among Us, and one of my friends was like, "I'm gonna stream this," and I was like, "Oh, well, what's your Twitch? I'll follow you." So I followed him. He had like I think 100 followers. Um, and so then, like, we kept playing and we were all, like, just starting to get, like, really close friends. I was like, "Why don't I do the same?" Like, if anything, and it was also whenever I was making YouTube videos as well, I would just make random YouTube videos, edit them on iMovie, and then upload them. Like,
Shout
I
out to
was making
iMovie.
vlogs back then. I was making, like, beauty guru makeup videos, and they're all privated now, but, like I was just doing that stuff for
Yeah.
fun. And so I was like, if anything, like, this is just like a recording moment, I can take this and put it into another YouTube video. Like, if people watch, who cares, And obviously, no viewers, or at least the people who were watching were the people who were playing. And so it's funny because we would always be like, there's like three of us streaming, and we would all have our all of the streams open, and then we would all be like, "Are you stream sniping? Like, you can't. How did you know that I was the killer? You can't be stream sniping. You have to close that tab. But give
Yeah.
me the view. Keep the view up."
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, I got into it. Like, my first stream was Among Us, and it was genuinely. I wish I still had the VOD. I ended up losing it because my hard drive killed itself.
Oh.
And so I ended up losing the VOD, which really sucks. But I just cherish that first stream so much because it was just me and my friends having a good time, you know?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, I don't really have a similar story as far as like other people. When I had got into streaming and stuff, I like the streaming world. One of the biggest games that caused my spike to go up there was Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 was, and again, I don't like saying that I'm the best, but arguably, I feel like I was one of the best snipers on the game at that time, and I made tons of content. I was streaming all the time. I was posting clips all the time, tons of montages and tournament challenges and all that kind of stuff. And Black Ops 4 was something that was a big rise for me. I could play that game for 10 hours a day. You would not hear one complaint from me. I would just be playing, dropping 60, 70, 80 bombs, hitting clips, recording them on my PlayStation 5 or my Xbox. I played on both consoles, and then I just throw them up on YouTube and I post a little montage and clips and stuff. And something that really spiked for me is I would always stream it, and just like in normal COD lobby, you could say live. And so then on Black Ops 4, you could also add a custom emblem, and I would put on like my Twitch, and I think my name at the time, I think it was like UFeeds, because Feeds was freaking taken. So it was UFeeds on there, and I'd be like, oh, live UFeeds, and I would go and I would have a great game. I'd drop 60, 70, 80 kills, whatever. And then after that, I'd get like a fluctuation of 3 or 4 people like, yo, GG's, like, you're insane, blah, blah, blah. And like, that's what really ramped me up. And that's kind of the community that I got into. And then a lot of people being able to have that skill level. For the longest time, I was known by me for my skill in my sniping and stuff. Now I'm kind of a bit more known for me, which is what I like. That's what I want. But at the time, I didn't care. I was just having fun.
Right.
And obviously, my fun has changed because COD has changed, and it's not as fun as it used to be. But that was something for my streaming career that got me into a lot, was just performing really well in a lobby and somehow witnessing and interacting with kind-hearted people that just wanted to come and say hi and say GG's. And that's really what started my career in my community. So it was definitely a cool time.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like I think the similar kind of story happened with me in Valorant. I ended up having a TikTok, or at least 2 TikToks going viral, because me and my friend were doing this silly bit with a gun skin, like he
Mhm.
didn't own the gun skin, I owned it, and so I dropped it for him, and he would say his famous line like, "Oh, will we for me?" Um and so that people like loved that. And then, like I had to egg it on, have a part 2.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it's like people really enjoy like niches.
Yeah,
Um and it's definitely hard to continue with a niche whenever you like burn out on a game,
most
but
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the, per like, even like I said, I don't like talking a lot about the challenge, but with the Respawn Recruit Challenge right now, I think that's a very unique way too, because just because you're burnt out on something, like a lot of people get in that mindset of either I need to quit or I need to take a break for a long time or whatever. And again, this is not highlighting myself at all. It's just what I'm comfortable with. I used to just go from sniping every single day, and that's all I would do. And now I have this podcast, I have a reaction channel, and then I have a new gaming channel that I just made. And I have 3 YouTube channels. And a lot of people's like, oh, 3 YouTube channels, that's a lot. But like me personally, I don't like making people watch something they're not going to watch anyway. So if you're with the term niche, if your niche is watching my podcast, I don't want to bother you with reactions and other stuff that you're not going to, because when they're scrolling, looking at more podcasts and they're just spammed with all my other content that I do, I just personally think that it's just unorganized and uneven. So that's why I have 3 separate YouTube channels, because if I decided to just stop uploading on one, I still have two more to fall back on. And all three of them, at least right now, currently, that may change in a couple months, but all three of them, I have a drive and a passion to upload and record and edit and stuff. And I think that's a big misconception, again, that a lot of people get into is they get bored of one thing and they think that it's over. But in reality, they just need to open the doors to the stuff that they've been wanting to do. Just like I was telling you before we started my podcast and my really bad spot I was in life and all that kind of stuff. If I didn't go through those experiences, I may not even be sitting here talking to you today. And that was my motivation to try something new because of I went through those times. So I think that's kind of the important part for people. The advice that I would give is if you're struggling through something and you're burnt out and you don't know what to do, you just have to tap back into your mind of what were those thoughts of something that you think would be kind of cool for you to do, and you just shut yourself down.
Yeah.
So is there any advice you'd like to give for people that are kind of going through burnouts and don't know what to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely going through a burnout as well. I've been through it like several times. Just because I have ADHD, so
Same.
doing the same thing often is it just I
Yeah.
get bored. Which is why I went from like no camera to PNG tuber and then PNG tuber to face cam. Um, it's definitely like burnout is such a it's such a s- it just sucks because you want to like push that content and you want this thing to happen, and then you just can't bring yourself to do it, or it's
Right.
like the thought of having to open up Premiere and then or whatever editing software you have, or having to go live and put on a smile, like um it definitely sucks. But I definitely how I got out of burnout was just stopping doing that stuff for a while. Like,
Yeah.
editing for me was such a hard thing because I have been editing since I was like young, like 10. I would edit, videos of myself on iMovie, and then I would, either keep those there or upload them to a YouTube channel that nobody saw. Um, and so editing for 10 plus years and then, getting burnout on editing when editing is like a huge part of content creation, I just stopped editing. And I'm fortunately in a place that I can hire an editor for,
Yeah.
some shorts or to like shorten a VOD into like a
Right.
10-minute video. But it's just like, don't force yourself to do something that you physically can't bring yourself to do. Like, streaming and content creation shouldn't be a task. It should be something that you want to do. And once it becomes a task, it no longer becomes fun. Um, and then like you just end up not doing what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, and so definitely like just take breaks if you need to. Like, your mental health and how you feel always comes first. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is like thinking that they need to stream because they promised that their viewers that this thing would happen on this day, and then the day comes and they can't get themselves out
Yeah.
of bed to even brush their teeth. Like, don't force yourself to do stuff that you physically can't do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's what I was going to kind of tack on what you kind of said most of it. But, obviously, me and you are big advocates for mental health because it's
Yeah.
not raised awareness at all. It's not normalized at all. But on that topic, for people that are wanting to take breaks and they're worried of their community leaving them or their content falling down, or maybe they were trending for a little bit of time, they're going to fall off. Why is, in your opinion, why is it important for you to take breaks? And is it important that they take breaks?
Absolutely, yes, it's important to take breaks. Um, I mean, as far as like the fear of losing like viewership, it's just something that's gonna happen anyway, whether they lose interest like in a longer period of time or they lose interest because you haven't streamed for a while. Either way, a number should not dictate how you handle your mental health. Um, and I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with because they're doing they're doing everything they can to get that high view count or reach their subscriber goals or their follower goals, and that's awesome. Like, you should be like striving for those things, but at the same time, that number shouldn't dictate uh your mental health and how you take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I fully agree. I mean, that's pretty much, I can't really say anything better myself. I mean, kind of the only thing I can tack on there, like me personally, is the way that I function. If I decide to stream today, which I don't stream a lot anymore, because I obviously I'm a lot more on YouTube and stuff now. My content switch has changed. But on that topic, when I do stream, or especially when I used to stream heavily, if I was streaming for 30, 40, 50 minutes and then I just didn't feel like it anymore, I would just be straight up with who's ever watching.
Yep.
Like, listen, this is not something I want you to watch. And there's a lot of self-discipline that has to come into that. But my best advice I would give is, if you're somebody that you do and you don't want to take a break, go back and watch your content and understand if that's something you would want to watch. If you are worried about people leaving your stream and not tapping in with you, and you go back and watch yourself and even you can't watch you, then it doesn't matter whether you take a break or not, because just like you said, they're going to leave anyways. So it's important that you tackle that early on, so that way you don't lose that possible viewer, because however you want to make that sound, you have no idea who the next person you're going to meet, and that person could be life-changing. Could be financially, could be your best friend, could be an opportunity, could be a job, whatever it could be. Could just be somebody that's, I don't want to get really negative, but could be going through stuff and you saved them. It can go in many different ways. So that's definitely my advice is, I've said it a bunch of times here on my podcast, and I'll say it again, is you don't realize the kind of impact that you make as a creator. Is there anything else you'd want to add to that?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Going back to like meeting my friends through a streamer, like you said, you never know the impact someone has. And so because we all shared interest in this one streamer, they became like my friends, and I'm still friends with them to this day. Um and so it's like having trying to find
Oh,
words.
you're fine.
um but my whole thing with why I started streaming just for fun, but as I continued and as I grew, I realized that I wanted to be that streamer for someone. I wanted to have that community where people could meet their best friends or meet their partner. Like, I met my partner through a streamer contest. Like, it's like this job. I'm not really full time, so I wouldn't
Mhm.
consider it a job for myself. But this streaming and content creation has opened up so many opportunities for me. Um, and yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, definitely, I understand, and I think that's the beauty of it. I think a lot of people get into it blindly, and you don't really have to research getting into content creation and streaming, but you do have to understand that there's way more to life than just clicking that go live button. Like, a lot of
Mhm.
people, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, you should always do it for fun. But a
Right.
big misconception, and the most normalized one, is always going to be for money. They always want to turn it into a career and something that's
Right.
established and stuff. And a lot of people make sacrifices that they shouldn't. So the best advice I could just give is just educate yourself. I know,
Right.
especially if you're brand new to it, I know live streaming may just sound so simple, but it could turn into a lot of positives, and it could also turn into a lot of negatives. It just depends on your purpose and your direction that you decide to take yourself in. And just like we said very early on this podcast, you're the only one that's going to dictate that, nobody else.
Yep.
Before I ask a couple of my last questions to wrap everything up here, a question I usually ask everybody. I don't know if your name has a background story or not, for Miss KJade. But where did that name originate from? Is there any background story behind that?
Yeah, so I was originally Alex Jade 13. That was the name I've been using for ever since 6th grade. So I've used that name for a while. And then in 2022, I was like, what's the what Alex isn't even my name. Like, Jade isn't even my name. Like, why do I have these names? Um and I thought, honestly, it sucks that I say this, but Valorant inspired KJ because my initials are KJ. My name starts with a K and my middle
Yeah.
name starts with a J. Um, and a lot of people ask me, they're like, "Is it Killjoy?" And I'm like, Technically, no, it's my initials, but Killjoy and KJ sounded really cool, so I
Yeah,
did get inspiration from it. But no, Jade isn't my middle name. I just
right.
carried it over to have that kind of same brand so people didn't get so confused seeing like, oh, Alex Jade, K Jade, like where did it all go? Um, so I could still have like that consistency and bring over the audience that I already had. But KJ is my legal initials.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's sick, and it's cool that you have some type of origin story. I won't get into mine like hardly at all because mine's not a long story, but it's just a lot to get into. But
Yeah.
in very simple terms, my name was based off of COD Ghosts. That was one of my favorite CODs of all time. And long story short, I had to come up with a name that wasn't Random Gamer 7777. So I decided I really like the name Feeds, and it originated from Kill Feeds, the kill feed that you constantly see, and that's in all games, not just COD. But, and I say this every podcast too when I bring up my name, but there's a lot of people that's named out there Kill Feeds. I hate that name. And I promise I'm not being offensive to anybody because I know a lot of kill feeds, like that's their name, Kill Feeds. It's
Yeah.
nothing to you. But I just always like the name Feeds. I always like seeing my name in the feed. I loved reactions. A lot of people reacting to me and what I hit and what I do, and that's just what I loved, sniping in general and just providing a clip. So that's kind of roughly where mine originated from. So all the time when people talk to me, I'll either get called kill feeds, which annoys me, or I'll get called feds because people can't see two freaking E's in my name. So that's kind of my common misconception. But I definitely understand that kind of being labeled to a game. But at the same time, that is like the little tiny struggle that you bring on. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there, and I say this all the time. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that your name is a lot more important that what it
Right.
goes off, because most people usually don't put any type of government stuff in their name.
Right.
And so when you're online, you're kind of your own character and your own persona, and you're building something that's not who you are in real life. So that's something I always give advice to anybody, that whether they're new or whether they've done this for 5-6 years. I mean, if you don't have a meaning to your name at the end of the day, I say this a lot, it's going to be annoying for anybody that listens to this, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a meaning to your name, it's really not a big deal at all. It's just kind of me being a little bit judgmental. But I personally think that it'll mean a lot more in the long run when you get where you want to be if you create something that is personal to you and not just something you were born with. That's just me
Right.
personally.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, sick. I'm glad that you kind of have that, and have a little bit of a background story, and I'm sure that means a lot. Even though it's a game that you're burnt out on, I mean, clearly it
Yeah.
still holds a good place in your heart, which is always good.
Right.
Before we wrap up here, I do ask every time that I have any women or any ladies on the podcast, I do like to try to ask one or two questions for that community. We had a pretty decent talk before the podcast started of the struggles and battles that you guys unfortunately go through, and how ridiculous it is. And I won't make it like too controversial. I'll just try to simplify it. For women creators that are out there that are scared to stream, or they're scared to network, or they don't really know, or they don't have friends or whatever, and they see the TikToks and all the hate comments and the face reveals and all that kind of stuff, what advice would you give to them to try to step outside of their comfort zone or start connecting with other people?
Um, I mean, regardless of like what you look like, how you sound, you shouldn't let other people dictate how you live your life or what you do. And I mean that's easier said than done, of course. Um, but I mean, really like pressing that start button and then just handling the situation as it comes. Like there's nothing really you can really do to prepare yourself for, getting these comments or getting these people yelling at you on the internet. Um, and I mean, luckily it's on the internet, you can delete the comment, you can block them. I mean, it's definitely hard, and I'm never gonna say that it's gonna get easier because I mean,
Mhm.
it's the internet, there's always gonna be people that are that think that they're better than everyone else, and so they have to share that. Or there's always gonna be those misogynists that tell you to get back in the kitchen, make them a sandwich.
Right.
But I mean, just hitting that button and then, putting yourself out there if people are being mean to you, like us girls, I think we all kind of have a collective mindset of like support other girls. Um and so, like I've seen so many TikToks of girls getting attacked on Valorant, and then the comments are like misogynist, and then
Hmm.
the replies to like retaliate are women saying like, "Okay, how big is your penis?" Like it's
Yeah,
like um and so it's definitely like us girls got your back.
yeah,
Even if you don't know us, even if I don't know you, if I see another woman like getting a hate comment, well, at least she had the balls to post her face while you're sitting here behind a keyboard, you know?
yeah,
Like, I'm always gonna be like, women stand with women. Um, the girls and the gays, you know?
yeah.
Uh, and so it's definitely like, just hit the start button and know that we got your back, even if you don't know us.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, community is very important. I think that's kind of the. I know I've used the term misconception a lot, during this podcast, but really, I mean, it's a normal word that always comes to my mind. There's a lot of, and it's not even all women, obviously, but I mean,
Right,
there's a ton of women that do sit, on the sidelines and behind the screen and just kind of watch
right,
and get hated on and don't say nothing, and it's like, you could be a part of the solution and help it too,
yeah,
and I feel like that's the beauty of networking and collaborating and stuff is you don't have to know somebody to support them. That definitely goes for
right.
men too, 100%.
Oh,
I don't want to,
absolutely.
obviously I don't want to just solely,
Right,
specify them. And it's just like I said before, like I've defended a lot of women,
right,
in my lifetime. And I'm not trying to like ego myself or nothing. It just needs to be normalized is all I'm trying
right.
to say. And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
people, that instantly when they hear me talk, just like I told you before, when they hear me talking about a topic like this, when they start listening to me, they kind of don't care. And then they hear Jade and they're all ears. I get it. It
Yeah,
is no big deal at all.
right,
That's the way that things work. And so there's a lot of people that need to understand that just because there's an issue going on, you could always help be a solution to it.
right.
So, kind of the last question I'll ask here is kind of something you've already touched topic on of building a community and having support and people behind you and other women gamers. And obviously, it don't have to be specifically for women, but is there any recommendations or advice for women creators or just general creators that maybe want to have more friends and they don't really know how to make friends? Is there any recommendations you would give them?
I mean, I made a lot of my friends through like servers and Discord communities. I, meet people on games all the time and exchange Discords. Like, it's really just a fact of, and this is coming from someone who is incredibly shy and hates confrontation. And like, I'm very much introverted, but some reason I get on like the internet and I'm a completely different person. Like, I stick up for myself.
Yeah.
I like reach out to more people and try and get more friends. It's like you just got to take that leap and really go for it, like Twitter DMs. If you have their Discord, like, if you share an interest, talk about that, you know, hit them up in their Twitch chat, see if they see your message like, "Hey, I really enjoy your content." Like really just taking that leap to reach out to someone and saying like, "Hey, I we have this in common. Let's play a game and talk," you know? I mean, I met all of my current friends as well through that streamer competition. And so it's like, we all had the same, competition that we were in. We were all top 100 of Valkyrae and Miyoung's streamers.
Yeah.
And so, we all shared that and then we all became like a tight-knit group that we could all, go to for content ideas and really just rely on each other to help each other through um, content creation.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. And I mean, even like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much, but with the respawn recruits, it's the same exact thing that applies. When
Exactly.
you have a common interest and you go out of your way, out of your comfort zone, even something like this. Like I know a lot of people is probably sitting here watching right now, and whether they're a part of respawn or they have no idea, they're looking at me and they're like, "Oh, this is so easy for feeds and stuff." It used to not be easy at all. It used to be
Right.
very difficult for me to reach out. But the kind of cool thing, on the topic of respawn recruits, somebody really big for me was Frosty, because Frosty
Mm.
did. I can't. I can't remember what it was, but he had a page that was just for like all of those creators in for last year. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head. But I had actually reached out to him, and because a big thing for me, I'll have anybody on my podcast, but I don't have to know you, but I like that you're mutuals with other people that I know. So that way I kind of somewhat trust you and respect you and understand you. I don't like doing just completely random people because you don't know who the other person is at the end of the day. So last year I'd actually reached out to him and he gave me some names or whatever. And that's actually the whole reason why I decided to throw my hat in the ring this year, because it's something that stood out to me. It's a lot of creators that share my same mindset and same views. Clearly, by mine and your conversations, we're very alike with our thought process and our goals and what we're trying to interpret. And so for me, it's kind of the same thing, just like with the Valkyrie thing that you participated in. It's the same thing with Respawn Recruits. Like now me and you've done this podcast, we've collabed, and I'm sure that we'll keep up with it, another down the road, and we're going to meet a lot more people. And I think that's the beauty of it. A lot of people are trying to win, and a lot of people aren't trying to build their communities. And I feel like that's the thing that really stinks about everything, because everybody is focused on numbers and, oh, I'll win this competition because I got 200 viewers checking me out right now and you have 3. And it's like, if you're in that mindset, you're only going to go so far. Eventually you're going to fall off and then nobody's going to be there. So that's kind of the beauty of it. And I just kind of wanted to touch, like go off of you on that, because I feel like the Respawn Recruits is the same exact way. Now we all have a common interest, and if it wasn't for this, me and you probably wouldn't even be talking. And so I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Right. It's definitely like touching on the fact that we're in like these like competitions for content creation. I definitely say this with people who like I didn't think that I would get top 100. I submitted my video for the streamers, and then like I found out Christmas Day of 2022 that I had made top 100, and um it's like really, if you're trying to grow, putting yourself out there is always the best bet. Like submit the videos, like post them publicly so others can view you. If you don't make the competition, at least you got like, some recognition, your video got shown on stream, or, it got a lot of views on YouTube because other people were looking at it to gauge the competition.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like just put yourself out there, like take that leap of faith. And I know it's, like I said, very easy said than done. And I mean, even today I had to take a leap of faith to do this podcast,
Yeah.
because I mean, I don't know you. So
Most
it's
definitely.
it's definitely nerve-wracking, but I'm very glad that I did do it. Because it was very nice to get to know you.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, definitely put yourself out there. If you don't make the competition, that's okay. Take time to grieve and then keep going, Take that opportunity to make content about, why you didn't make it, or, they put your video on stream and they reacted to you. Make some TikToks about that. Um just definitely like put yourself out there. If you don't make it, take time to grieve and then keep going. There's always going to be another competition. There's always going to be more content opportunities, and you're going to grow in the along the way. You're going to grow, you're going to make friends, you're going to gain a community. Like there's no harm in just putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And and on that topic of just submitting a submission and see how it goes, I mean, again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm a prime example of that, because I'm sponsored by Elgato. Whenever they had, 4 or 5 months before all this happened. Sorry, my nose keeps itching. It won't stop. 4 or 5 months ago, they had posted a thing, just say, hey, submit a submission. If we like you, we'll reach out. And they ended up did. I just decided one day, literally on like a 3-minute time span, I was just sitting at my PC and I was like, oh, it's stupid. 30 seconds later, I clicked record and I was like, hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Feats, put on, my little face and stuff. And it ended up working out. And so I think that's the beauty of it. A lot of people get in this understanding of their head that, oh, it's not going to happen to me because I don't have enough support. But there is a lot of things like that. It won't work out for you because there's a lot of companies that base themselves off of different metrics. And obviously, Elgato is obviously one that's completely different, of course. And clearly, just on the topic of Respawn, again, Respawn is another company that don't care about those metrics and those standards. They want you for you. And so if your heart's in the right place and you apply for a product or a community or some type of program or whatever it may be, and they don't reach back out to you, they leave you on red, or even they deny you, maybe it wasn't meant for you in the first place, because you want to be partnered and sponsored by people that have the same goals and values that you have. So if they deny you because they say your metrics aren't high enough, they don't want to see you succeed. They just want you to perform at your highest and give them what you got, and they'll just tag with you along the way. And that's not the way that it should be. You should be able to, it's just like watching a creator. You should watch them because you want to be able to see 3-4 years from now, they blow up and they made it, and you got to be there, a part of the ride. You don't want to just be a part of it and hop on the bandwagon because everybody's doing it.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, it has been an amazing conversation. A little over an hour. Me and you have been talking about everything. Of course, obviously, I appreciate your time. Last question I'll ask before we end off on here. Is there anything that you have coming up that you're excited to share with anybody?
Yes. So I do make music. I have a new song coming out. I think it just has to get approved first. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm working on another one, which is a different type of genre that I've never worked with before. And I'm very
Awesome.
excited about that one. And then on top of that, I have a music video coming out.
Nice. Man, you're
So
really
I'm
getting out
very
of your
excited.
comfort zone, aren't you?
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's
It was
awesome.
very much like a homemade music video, but it
Yeah.
was it was so fun to film. Um, and so I'm very excited for that stuff to come out. Um, so yeah, and then I have, Respawn
Mm-hmm.
invitationals, so I got all the content coming out for that. I'm working on some YouTube videos, and I'm really pushing myself this year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's awesome. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud, it's crazy that we started off this conversation talking about how hard it was for you to show your face and to get yourself out there. And now you're talking about, making your own music video. And, it's just crazy. It's just awesome. It's awesome that, you've come that far, and especially in such a short little time. And I think that's, something, with all due respect to anybody else watching, people that are in that scenario, I think they, really need to take a page out of your book. And, if Jade can do it, so can you. And I know it's kind of like a common, normal,
Yeah.
crappy saying, but it's true, because, I mean,
Yeah.
look at where she's come now. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's being a part of a music video and in the music industry. I mean, that's the most you could ever be.
Right.
So to be behind a screen and never be your true self, I mean, that's 2 and 2. It's completely different opposites.
Right.
So that's sick. Obviously, of course, just like I said before, I really appreciate your time being able to be here. If you guys want to go check out Jade, her Twitter is right below her head. In the description is all her links and everything. You can go check her out. Jade, before we end off on here, is there any last bit of words you'd like to say for anybody watching before we end off here?
If you're thinking about streaming, take the leap. Just press the button. You got it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, take the leap.
Your computer crashes, probably,
Yeah,
but that's
probably.
fine.
And then you realize you can't stream. So
Yeah.
at least you tried. Now you have an
But at least
excuse.
you tried. It's a thought that counts.
Awesome. Well, Jade, it's been a pleasure being able to hang out with you. I'm really looking forward to, regardless of how this journey takes us, I'm looking forward to all the upcoming stuff. Maybe we'll play some games together and stuff. It'll be really cool.
Please.
Maybe we'll get back into Valorant and just both cry together as we play the game and play it for one day and then quit playing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your time. Again, everybody that's watching, go check her out, please. She's an amazing creator, and I'm really glad that I got to know her. And again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, this has been episode 39, I think. I hope that my math is right. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, this is Feeds Mindset. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.